Hi, my name's Gordon Young and I'm from the Institute of Applied Psychology. I'm in our offices in Mossman here in Sydney, Australia on a Sunday morning because I had a conversation last night with someone and I thought to myself, even though we teach therapists how to deal with low self-esteem, I haven't spent too much time talking to the general public about it. So let me offer you something. If you run I'm not good enough, then this is for you. So the first step is, the statement in and of itself makes no sense. The statement is too large, too generalistic to have any real effect. So how can you not be good enough? Not good enough for what? Not good enough according to whom? Not good enough to do what particular activity? What specifically are you not good enough to do? And here's the problem. Every problem we create in our lives has a generalization attached to it. The generalization makes it unsolvable. I'm an anxious person is an overgeneralized statement. You're anxious except when you're not. I'm no damn good. I'm fatally flawed. There's something wrong with me. All these kind of statements make the problem ubiquitous. It's everywhere, it's all the time, it's no matter what situation. And the truth is, human beings just aren't like that. You're not always anxious. You're not always messed up. You're not always troubled. There are times when you're happy. The moment you say, I've been depressed for 10 years, that's not true. You may have had depressive episodes from time to time. You might have had depressive episodes consistently, but those episodes have been 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time over a 10-year period, and you might have had half a dozen a year, but that's not depressed for 10 years. So when you make the statement and you let it run unchallenged in your head that you're just not good enough, you start to act in accordance with it. You actually start to tell yourself and train yourself to believe something that just simply isn't true. So there's the first thing. But here's what I want to point out to you. It's not you. It's a pattern that you've learned. It's not your personality. It's not that there's something intrinsically wrong with you. You've learned a pattern. And that pattern is all about unrealistically assessing yourself. So you probably learned it from a parent or from the community generally, but in essence, there's a pattern that you've learned, and that means you could learn something else instead. So here's the first thing. This is what I already know about you, and I have not met you yet. You're probably quite avoidant of risk. You don't like uncertainties. You probably also don't like conflict, or you're not particularly good at it. So that means you don't like to say no. You can't set boundaries, and if you can't set boundaries, then you can't say no to people. And this is not because you don't love yourself enough. Some of your theories around self-esteem really don't help. You going for a facial or a massage or pampering yourself in some way, that doesn't actually help your cognitive functioning. It interrupts it briefly, but it doesn't change it. This is not about you not loving yourself. This is about you running a very particular pattern that is predictable. You also run an avoidance pattern. So you avoid conflict, there's one thing. That means people tend to walk over you because wherever you set a boundary, you just keep moving it, which means other people can keep pushing it. You struggle with action. So here's the thing. If you lean towards perfectionism, then at some point in your life, you're going to start balking at action because you don't want to take an action that's not going to allow you to do it the way you want to do it to get the outcome that you want. If you're not sure you're going to get the outcome you want, you can't be guaranteed it's all going to work out, you'll start to balk at it. So here's the thing, no matter what you do, if you keep moving the goalposts so that no matter how well you did, you can always tell yourself, no, you could have done better, then eventually your brain starts to go, I'm not playing. I'm not doing this anymore. This is problematic because now you build a history. You can build up a decade of you not taking action, of you wanting to do something but can't, choose not to. And then when you say, I want to do something, your brain says, no, let's not do that. You're not going to do that. And what do you start to do? You start to self-label. Maybe it's because I'm just not good enough. Maybe it's because I just don't deserve. That's your logical brain trying to make the assessment of why can't you get the outcomes that other people get? Why can't you get the relationship that you want? Why can't you get the job that you want? I can tell you why, because you balk at everything. Because you don't trust yourself enough to get the outcome. You're so worried about the uncertainties of life. It's called an intolerance for ambiguity in the literature. When you have such an intolerance for ambiguity, you don't like uncertain situations, you can't take risks. You can't experiment. You can't try different things because there's always a risk attached to it. And the more you balk at action, the more you balk at trying something new, the more you build a case against yourself within your own mind. Because your mind doesn't want to play or commit to something when it knows you're not going to follow through. Here's another part of this. If you want to feel confident that you can get the outcome before you've ever tried something, then you won't take action. I see this so often in my clinic. There is no reason why you should feel confident before you've ever tried something. You've never done it before. You don't have a process to do it. You don't know what steps to take. If you ask me to write a song, I have no way of knowing how to start that. I'd have to go and look for what the process was. I'd have to Google it probably and try and work out, do I start with a title? Do I start with the words? Do I start with trying to put some notes together? How do I do it? I don't know. Am I good enough to do it? I'm good enough to work it out. I'm not saying I'll be great, but I can work out the basics of something. So ultimately, if you're not putting something on paper, if you're not actually doing something, then you never get to first base. You never create anything in your life. And as a result, you have no history. The confidence that you should have is the confidence that you can learn how to do it if you work out the steps. The idea that you're not good enough is only because you have not worked out the steps. You don't know how to do it yet, but go and find the steps. You don't want to be confident that you can do it. You want to be confident that you could work it out with the right amount of investment in time and energy. You could go and learn pretty well anything. Everything you're not good at is typically because you don't have a good strategy for it, or quite frankly, you don't care. You know, people quote to me, I'm not good at math, I asked them, do you want to be good at math? And they go, well, not really. Then why are we even bringing this up? Ultimately, you're too hard on yourself. You've learned a critical self-motivating pattern, which is be hard on yourself and that will make you better. That'll make you try harder. No, that's an avoidance pattern. When there's a problem, your pattern is to avoid it. When there's something you don't like, instead of tackling it face on, having that difficult conversation, you want to walk the other way. That is an avoidant pattern that's going to load you up on anxiety through your life. You've got to do something about this, by the way. Because the young, anxious person at 5, or the person who doesn't believe in themselves at 5, 6, 7, will be the 55-year-old, the 65-year-old, the 85-year-old who doesn't believe in themselves. It does not change unless you intervene. And there are ways of doing it. It's actually not that complex. If what you're hearing from me resonates for you, then do something about it. Come and learn how to change it. Come do a course. Come and see one of our therapists. Do something. But I can tell you now, it's not going to change because you went for a facial. You know, if you went home after work, after being stressed, feeling bullied, badgered, whatever, and you ate a tub of ice cream, that wasn't you not loving yourself. That was you trying to placate a feeling that you don't know how to placate any other way. That was you trying to look after yourself. That was you self-soothing. It just wasn't a particularly useful way of doing it. If what you did was decide to go to the gym, well, that would have been better, but ultimately you've got to learn how to manage that emotional state. Just because someone says something to you doesn't mean to say it has to land. The truth is, the only criticism that lands with you is because you believe it to be true. You don't care about other people's opinions. Let me be very clear about this. You don't care about anyone else's opinion. What you care about is that your true opinion of yourself is shared by others. If I said that I think you're wonderful or special or creative, my guess is that you probably fob that off. Me just trying to be nice, maybe I want something, I've got an angle. But if I was to criticize you, my guess is you'd take that on board and dwell on it, maybe for days. If that's true and you don't take my compliment and my criticism with the same weight, then my opinion doesn't matter to you. Your opinion matters to you. The truth is, your opinion of yourself is worth more than anyone else's view of you. What you have to learn is to assess yourself realistically, and that does not come with you comparing yourself to others, particularly when you're only going to compare yourself to others that you think are above you. You know, even when you're doing the comparison piece, to do low self-esteem, you've got to be quite selective about who you choose. If you don't think you're pretty enough, you go and compare yourself to Charlize Theron. That's hardly a fair comparison. So I'm here to tell you, it's just a process that you've learned, a pattern of thinking. There are distinct components to it. It's not a mystery. There's nothing wrong with you. And it is easy enough to tackle. Half a dozen hours together, come do a course, change what you're thinking. The world is a much bigger place. And you are so much more than you think you are. You're good at things that haven't yet been invented. And for you to be able to explore it, you have to get past this. So I'm encouraging you to review. If what I've said resonates and you recognize that is exactly the pattern that you're running, then come talk to us. I wish you a great weekend.